Hi, it's Jackie Russo, and you're here with us for RazorBranding Live, the video hour-long interview edition. And today we're talking to Johnny Blancher with Rock and Bowl. Johnny, welcome to the show.
Having me on, Jackie.
I'm so glad you're here. So we actually met officially in real life for the first time yesterday, right?
Hard to believe.
I know,
we're practically neighbors.
I think we are, and I feel like we've been, in the same places near each other. I've been to your place a bunch of times, but it was the first time we've been able to sit down at a table and not talk about this, but talk about work stuff. So it's nice to now have this opportunity to get to know you even better.
Yeah, well, thank you, and it's likewise. It was actually fun to chit chat yesterday and hatch plans.
Exactly. Well, and I appreciate the passion that you bring to downtown Lafayette, because you've been doing it in New Orleans for a long time. They've had the advantage of your vision and your energy, and now you're bringing it here. So let's start there. Talk to me a little bit about that move. What was that like?
Well, it was fun. It was exhilarating. The energy level that it takes, of course, to be in this business, much less move to a new city and put all the pieces and parts together of a construction project like this. Of course, it takes a lot, but at the same time, it's something that's rooted in our family. My mother's from Vermilion Parish, and she grew up on a cattle ranch there, Cow Island, Forked Island area, and her family, the Couvillons, been there forever. They're still very entrenched there, and a lot of family in Lafayette itself. So this is a place where we were very familiar with and always loved. It just was something that never got off our radar. And certainly Katrina played a part in that. I mean, we
Right.
evacuated here. But
Right.
that's really kind of the nuts and bolts of the background of how we ended up here.
Well, it's nice to have you back. So you get here, you open up, you're rocking and rolling, pun intended, and then all of a sudden you've got to shut down for the pandemic. Talk to me about the pivot, because I've been real impressed with what y'all been doing, having concerts inside that you're broadcasting to a big screen outside so people can pick up curbside food, sit in their cars, and watch a show.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a plan when when they shut down. You start looking at all the different ways that what are your assets, right? What do you do well? What do you have at your disposal? What do people think about when they think of you? Like all those things start running through your head. I got to do something. Certainly plays a part. So to say that we had a plan when this hit, would be a total farce,
Right.
But, we knew we had some assets still that were, we thought, could help people to continue. Not just of course the customer. The customer's looking for some sort of outlet. We've always been that entertainment place where you could rely on us for hopefully great hospitality, but also just something to do while you're enjoying music or bowling or great food or all the little things we have to offer. But then when they say you can't do it the way you've been doing it, and we don't know how long it's gonna be before you can, then you start really thinking. So we saw the drive-ins start to in some places in the world, Europe, a couple in California and other places. And I said, that's a play. We're doing live music. They do movies, but we could still do it. I had a buddy, Dolph Federico, with Pelican Events. I figured he had a screen, called him. He's got the FM transmitter, so you can broadcast it to the cars. Got on the phone with guys in LA that and had some that we know from years ago with the movie biz, being in and out of Louisiana all these years. Hey, help us, tell us how all this technology works. How do you mix the audio?
Right.
And get it all synced up with the video and actually put it out on more than one social media platform. And
Right.
I don't want to just go to one Facebook page. I need to go to 5, 6, 20. What can I do? So, what cameras to use, all these kind of things. Chuck Credo, Bo St. Pierre, these guys, Credo agencies. We've been friends for years. They're the Mixed Nuts band and many other tribute bands, and a bunch of those guys play with Mark Broussard. Mark's on a couple of the calls with us. We're all just trying to learn as fast as possible. So we took about 2 weeks where we just learned, started ordering equipment, trying to get it here. That was difficult.
Right.
And then eventually we had something that we thought was certainly better than what we were seeing. It's so far, it looks like, we're one of the few live music venues, even in the big boy arena, that put something together. And I think it's been great for the artists to be able to get some Venmo money in and, collect some donations. Some were incorporated. And so they, instead of doing that, they decided that they were going to do something for charity. And, whether it was Music Cares or the Jazz and Heritage Foundation and, all kind of other, charities that are music related, able to collect money for that. And now I think we have a long-term platform.
Yeah.
We have something that's not just going to be temporary.
Well, and I'm starting to think of how you take this now and extend it. So festival next year, you can have people inside, and once you reach capacity, you can live stream to outside and people can still be a part of the music.
Right. And then exponentially grow the footprint through social media. So, look, we don't know whether or not this is going to be something that's a subscription based on the back end of our website.
Right.
Or if there's a couple of other platforms out there, or is it a Facebook Live where all we're doing is asking for tips for the band.
Right.
But what we did was, and we just actually invested even more, as and I feel like I'm crazy for doing it.
I believe you are, so that's okay.
But we went and invested heavily so that we could get permanent cameras put in place in both New Orleans and Lafayette, so that we can do this even after, once we get up and running. So now there's the ability, there will be, and already is really, but it's a temporary setup right now. But in a permanent setup, we can then broadcast to the world. There's lots of people that come in for Festival Acadien. They come in for Festival International. They come in for New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival and others, throughout the year, French Quarter Fest. They come in from all over the world, right? And they're coming to get a taste of our culture.
Right.
Across all of South Louisiana, whether it's the old swamp pop stars or some of the newer guys like, he's the Cajun Bruce Springsteen, for God's sake, Dustin Gaspar. he's this, I know he's young right now, but this guy's great. So they're coming in for everything in between. And now they will be able to potentially see them online right there in their own homes. And somebody gets inspired and decides, you know what, I want to give this guy $100.
Right.
And so the artist is going to be able to keep 100% of that. And we've set up this infrastructure so that they have another outlet, for their music. And I think it's going to strengthen a relationship with Rock and Bowl and the artist. But then, on our end, we get a different type of exposure worldwide. We also end up with we then end up with all this audio, video, all this content. Right. And so now there's endless things that we can all do together to promote our brands and promote South Louisiana.
I love the way you're thinking about it. When I worked in LA a few decades ago, I had the honor of working for a man named Diller, and he was really all about content. And his vision of where we're heading, we're talking about being 2 steps ahead. He was that guy. He
Yeah.
looked ahead and realized in the 90s that the people who created the content and then could purpose it on all these different platforms and have the opportunity to, you're watching the TV show Friends, you see them sitting on that couch, you click a button, you buy the couch they're sitting on. He knew that's where we were heading. And what
Yeah.
you're doing is taking that same concept and running with it on the music side. I love that.
Yeah, well, thanks. And look, Barry Diller, oh my gosh.
Yeah, we'll talk after, because
That guy, that's another level.
yeah, it really was. My
I would
years
love
with
to hear
him.
all about that.
Well, some things I signed an NDA on, but there's some things I can talk about that are amazing. Just amazing.
I'm sure he was smart enough to get those.
Whew, yeah, no, it was. I was his right hand for years. It was awesome. Deborah Darbone's watching. Two of my favorite people.
Debbie.
I mean, I love her so much. I love that she
great.
loves you. That's awesome.
Long time friends, and Debbie's been one of the biggest supporters of the Rock and Bowl before we were even in Lafayette. So,
Right.
Love you, Debbie.
She's great people. We tailgate together for Cajuns football.
Oh, wow, really?
And so we get to spend every weekend together in the fall, and I love it. It's some of my favorite times.
I've decided that there's like 7 Debbies. She finds a way to be everywhere.
She really is. I believe she has been cloned. Mimi Kelly's watching. She says it's good to see your face.
Hey, Mimi. Mimi, Legatus chapter of New Orleans. Mimi is the backbone there, and we've done a lot together over the years, and it doesn't happen without Mimi.
Right.
She's a rock of that.
Well, there's some good, strong people there too. We got to do the marketing for First Bank and Trust for years and years and years.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So I went from Barry Diller
Yeah.
to the New Orleans version.
Yes. The man.
The man, the myth, and the legend.
He was actually, he's been somebody that has been a great mentor for my father and I, and would have never known him if it wasn't for the Legatus chapter.
Right. I mean, amazing. So as you look at the pivot that y'all had to do during the pandemic, and I love that you're seeing the vision of how that sticks around and you get to do more now. What businesses have you watched and seen some of the things they've done and you thought, man, that was smart. That was clever. I love the way they pivoted.
Yeah. Well, locally, you've got a few that, I don't know, JT Mellick, right? Goes and makes hand sanitizer instead of vodka, right?
Right.
We've heard a lot about that. There's some that I think they were already working on being more, the back end of their restaurants were already set up to do more takeout, so they were able to be there quicker. Online companies that had already shifted online, there's the shipping of food product. Some were really working hard to figure out how to package South Louisiana food, and there's a local companies and they excelled when this happened. They were positioned well. I think I admire that when you're positioned well.
Right.
And that, you didn't necessarily pivot, but you were ahead of the game. You saw something else coming, and then something like this happens and you're already ready, even though this wasn't why you did it. Right.
Right.
There was, what is it? Lava Cantina, the music. They're a large venue, Dallas area. They've got a few of them. They pivoted with the drive-in in a big way. They're a much different company from us, but their production value has been spot on, been great.
Right.
And then in the restaurant business, we've got Rouse's pivoted, and they pivoted to our benefit. To restaurateurs' benefit. Some of us had relationships with, I used to do everything from sell dog food for them to things like, it was where the chefs shop. Marcy Nathan with the Alfred Agency National. I think she's in house now with Rouse's. She's the marketing, and she she had this campaign that she had done, and a lot of us that were chefs in the New Orleans area, were working with her. And then 15 years later, she's ready to go because she had already put together a platform to bring our products into their stores. So they, cut through the red tape immediately. Myself and many others were able to go get. So Yale College Inn was, we were able to get into the 3 stores here in Lafayette, 3 stores in New Orleans. Now we're working on being in all 64 stores, even after this is over. So, that's a big deal, and
that's huge.
And it's been a shot in the arm for us to have a way to sell our product and to keep our brand out there.
Right.
And there's many other restaurants that they did that for. Obviously, they couldn't fit everybody, but everybody that had been in good relationship with them, had relationships from the past, they reached back out to. And I think there's a little bit of loyalty there on their end, the Rouse's families, that they did that for us. 15 years later, they didn't forget. I got to, I won't forget that.
Well, I think that says a lot about local businesses and local relationships. And I think when we look at the banks, the community banks who were able to help facilitate so many of those early PPP loans when the big banks were ignoring us locally, I think that's really important. And so another example of local relationships.
Oh yeah, you need local banks.
Yes.
You can't. Oh man, that's a whole other. That's a whole different podcast. But it's very. Look, the banking relationship, having a personal relationship with your banker, is so important. When they understand your business and how it works, that's a big deal. And
right.
Look, can you get that with a large bank if you have the right person locally? I guess you can. I'm sure you can.
Sure.
But if it's a local bank from the start, there's a way better chance at having a relationship and for them to understand what it is that you need so that you can pay them back one day.
Right. That's exactly right. How have you kept your team connected during this time?
So emails and all the different apps out there for communicating. Sometimes I'm a little overwhelmed about how many lines of communication. We've held meetings, some in person, for training, for retraining, and just try to immediately communicate with everyone and let them understand that, here's my cell phone number. Before you assume that one thing's one way or the other, call us, call me, call somebody, and find me, because we better set up a clear line of communication if everybody's going to go into lockdown.
Right.
I think that Katrina helped us with this because when we had that all of a sudden evacuation, which is really how it played out. This whole myth that Katrina, we had this big warning and we were able to, that was, that's all great hindsight thinking.
Right.
So when that happened, we had no lines of communication. We were literally, of course, cell towers down and all that kind of stuff too. But we also didn't have contact with all, like, where did everybody go?
Right.
Where did Ronnie Moore, the fry cook, end up? We have no idea, right? And he has no idea where we are.
Right.
So we had some procedures in place already. Each year right before hurricane season, we make a stack of business cards that aren't really my business card or anybody, but it's a list of everybody that my family, right? Myself, my wife, my father, my brother-in-law, my sister, it's all of our phone numbers, exactly how to reach us and where we are if we evacuate.
Right.
So we already know where we're evacuating to, and this is how you find us. So that goes out each year. And I think and procedure, like, moment you get to wherever you're going, this is what you do.
Right.
You call this, you email this, and you say this, and this, right? So that was already in place. So we didn't need those cards for this, but it did help us have a template to, hey, this is the information we all need.
Right. Right. It's similar to the Patrick Taylor Foundation. When Katrina hit, they had a whole plan set up, and it was to evacuate to here if there was ever a big enough hurricane. And Mr. Taylor put that in place when he was still alive and running the company. Mrs. Taylor, as you know, is from Vermilion Parish. And so they all came to Lafayette. So they set up headquarters here. And to watch them flip that switch, following the same guidelines y'all have. Everybody's got a list. Everybody knows what they're doing. And they just like picked it up in a kit and moved it and set it up again. And they were up and running the next day. That's amazing to me.
It is. You know, of course, leave it to Patrick Taylor to be 1,000 steps ahead of everybody. I had to learn after the fact, you know. So if it ever happens again, I think I have a little better shot this time. But
right.
But
the companies that survived Katrina, I think, were better prepared for COVID because they've already been through it and they know how to adapt when these things happen.
Look, it is so different. The COVID Katrina thing, it's so different. The decision making that we're doing now is so different. But there's so many similarities that I think South Louisiana in general, because it's not just Katrina. You know, I mean, Lafayette's been hit
a couple times,
quite a few times, you know.
Right.
I know that it's all never, you know, nothing's ever been on the Katrina scale, but you know, we do have a clue about how to deal with disaster, and we are, I think, there's something in the DNA about how we kind of maneuver the oil field.
Right.
The oil field in South Louisiana. How many times is it, you know, roller coastered and people learn how to position themselves to adapt.
Right. Gaynell Leonard says, what your family has done for this community is heartwarming. God bless.
Thank you, Gaynell.
See, people are watching. I think it's important, Johnny. I think it's real important. So did you grow up playing in the lanes? Did you grow up as a bowler? Was this your lifelong ambition to join the PBA?
No, you know, we've always been, rock comes before bowl in the Rock and Bowl. You know, we were baseball guys, football guys. You know, my family, you know, we've always been big baseball fans. My father had no clue about bowling. You know, I was 12 years old when he bought the old Mid-City lanes on Tulane and Carrollton, and he knew nothing about bowling. He admitted it. Matter of fact, that's what almost stopped him, is that I don't know anything about bowling. But he was looking for something to get his entire family involved in, and he had made a trip to Medjugorje, Yugoslavia, at my mother's urging. You know, you got to go. Something special's happening there, and the Blessed Mother was appearing there. He went there, didn't see any visions. You know, there were, but he came away certain that something special was happening here, that the Blessed Mother was appearing. She just didn't appear to me. That's how, you know, so he put a petition on the mountain there asking for something to get his entire family involved. And he was back a week when a buddy of ours that was doing pro bono work as a CPA for the Knights of Columbus Foundation, of all things, right?
Wow.
They owned Mid-City Lanes, and they were losing money hand over fist for years. And asked him, hey, you want to hear a business deal? You want to buy a bowling alley? You know, he's like, man, I don't know anything about bowling. So, but I asked for something, right? So he thinks, well, if I ask for something, I ought to at least look at it. He put in a ridiculous little offer, and he ended up getting it. And then he had to negotiate a lease, and then they said no. And then, then all of a sudden, midnight on Halloween. So he took over at the stroke of midnight, All Saints Day. All of a sudden, he's in a bowling alley that's upstairs in a bad neighborhood at the time. It was terrible. Right. And, on one way in, one way out, it looked so stupid, but he knew that he was working on a prayer. Right. And he just went to work, buried his head, and the whole family went to work for him. That's awesome. So at 12 years old, I started bowling, but it wasn't my passion. But the fun of it all is certainly, ingrained in us. And we were always music lovers. If you grew up, my dad played the guitar and, chords. He wasn't a guitarist.
Right.
But, and he wrote songs when we were kids. And, he always laughs, says, I wrote songs until I was actually in the business, and now I haven't written a single song in 31 years. Just the creativity went right into the business, and it just so. No, I mean, we weren't bowlers, but we love the sport.
Mm-hmm.
But we always, I think that ended up being our advantage, was that we didn't have a preconceived notion on what it should be.
Right. And I think that's important.
Right. My dad saw bowling alleys as glorified catering halls. This could be more fun than just a black box space in some hotel or in a Kiwanis Club hall or not there's anything wrong with that, right?
Sure.
But there's he saw it as something better and started tweaking and figuring out, okay, if I put a stage over here and I do live music, maybe people will see the party atmosphere. And that's kind of how it ended up being rock and roll.
Right. Well, and I love that. Just like people talk about ChickfilA as being a customer service business that happens to have chicken.
Happens to serve chicken, right?
Right? And I think that's what y'all are. You're this entertainment complex that happens to have bowling.
Yeah. I mean, so it's funny you mentioned Chick-fil-A. When we evacuated after Katrina, we ended up, my wife was 4 months pregnant for my youngest, Lola. So we had a almost 2-year-old Blaze, my son in the middle, and an almost 4-year-old Piper, who just graduated from high school this week.
Congratulations.
Or last week. Yeah, thank you. And she's actually going to stay here. She loves Lafayette now, so she's going to go to UL.
Yay, go Cajuns.
Yeah, she's going to be a Cajun. So we're here, and we end up at the Chick-fil-A on Ambassador because it had a little play area.
Right.
And I got to be honest with you, I had never eaten at a Chick-fil-A. I didn't even know what it was. And but I saw a little mentally handicapped kid there that was wiping down the tables, and I'm watching as and look, not that he was doing some great job or at what he was doing, but he was doing it. And I could tell that there was something special about the guy that was running the place. And I didn't know at the time whether it was the manager or the franchise owner or what, I didn't know. But it struck a chord with me because we were missing at the time Murphy Hines, who was our version of that, right? And it was a kid that grew up in the neighborhood at Rock and Bowl, and instead of kicking him out, we just gave him a job because he was always there. So, and then he ended up having a little brother, and so, but he's missing. We can't find him. We can't find his family. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm, of course, my wife and I everybody's so emotional. We got tears in my eyes, and I'm reading a mural on the wall there about why Truett Cathy doesn't open on Sunday. And as I'm reading it, I turned to my wife, because at the time I had decided I wasn't going back. I'm not opening up Yale College Inn again. I was so frustrated. I was angry with the whole situation, and quite honestly, I was bankrupt. I just hadn't filed the paperwork,
right?
And I had no idea how I was going to get my family out of this hole, and my father had no idea either. And so I don't know what I'm going to do, and I'm reading his statement there, and I turned to my wife and I said, you know what? I'm going back. And this time we're going back. We're going to operate the restaurant, Yale College Inn, Tuesday through Saturday, 4 p.m. through 11 p.m. We're not going to do lunch. We're not going to do breakfast on Sundays. And we're going to do dinner only. And that's it. 5 nights a week, we're going to give our staff, everybody that's with us is going to be a permanent, they're going to be a full-time employee. They're going to be a part of this team and this family. And we're going to go after it this way. We're not going to run counter to every labor law because the restaurants are terrible when it comes to how the labor laws are written as opposed to what the expectation of a restaurant is in the market.
Right.
Those two do not meet anywhere. So I said, no, that's what we're going to do. And if it doesn't work, I know I'm not cut out for this.
Right.
I'm just not going to do it. So we did it. And it turns out that, up until the coronavirus hit, we developed it into something that was doing more sales Tuesday through Saturday, 4 p.m. through 11 p.m. than we were ever doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week before.
Wow.
Our team is way better. Chef Baker Guevara now is at the helm, and I mean, look, the people there are fantastic. Well, now we're in this, and I'm realizing that I forgot. I came to Lafayette and tried to be everything to everybody and open every single day of the week and tried to, and now I'm realizing, no, go do what you do.
Right.
And be great at it, and then let the chips fall.
Right. That is amazing. I had no idea of that part of your story.
Yeah.
Have you ever circled back with John, the franchise owner in Lafayette, to say, you have no idea what sitting at your place this one day did for my life and career?
No.
You should.
No. I would.
He would love that story.
I'd love to sit and talk with him one day.
Yeah.
I need to just go pop in.
Yeah. I think he'd appreciate that a lot. A lot. Kay Foreman says, Johnny and his beautiful family are a true gift to Lafayette. So grateful that they are ours. That is awesome.
Thank you, Kay.
And Dana
Kay's a
Higginbotham,
sweetheart.
who lives downtown and actually works here, says, resilience is key to overcoming effects of disasters, pandemics, and fluctuations in local economies. So thankful Rock and Bowl and Johnny are part of my vibrant downtown. And yes, go Cajuns.
Thank you, Dana.
So I think that, what we're seeing is the impact now that you've had, not just in New Orleans, but also in Lafayette and in your employees and in your families. So when you take that breath and you sit back and look at what you've built, what's your proudest achievement?
Oh, well, my family.
Yeah.
I mean, business is a major part of our family, of course, and all this ties together. I mean, it's like don't take it personal. It's just business. It's like, no, the whole thing's personal.
Right.
So yeah, the family, I'm truly blessed. My wife, we've been married now to be 21 years coming up. And, I don't know that I could have, only God could line that up for me. She's been just, whatever comes our way, she seems to be more even than I am, and half the time I've created the problem. So maybe more than half the time. I've got a great family. My mother and father. So it's hard to say. Like, I've got three best friends. I got my mother, father, and my wife, and then, so I think that's probably the thing that I'm most grateful for. But when it comes to the business side of it, I think the special part is that the world walks through your door. So you end up with friends across every political spectrum, every walk of life. I mean, friends. You build relationships that in this business, I don't think there's anything like it. And I think that's probably what the addiction that most restaurateurs have, that if you fall in love with the people that are coming in and out, it's hard to ever want to do anything else.
Right.
And so, I think that's kind of where, what drives all of us and my whole family.
Yeah. I think bowling alleys in particular must be a breeding ground for a special kind of guy. Michael's family had one in Morgan City growing up.
Oh, wow.
It was a family business.
I would love, that's another thing. I'd love to chat about that one day, about growing up doing that. I'm sure there's a lot of parallels.
Oh, yeah.
You learn so much. I mean, a bowling alley, and I know Michael would appreciate this, but a bowling alley, you're running, I mean, if you have 20 lanes, if you have however many lanes you have, you're basically running 57 Chevys all day long. Meanwhile, so you're in the mechanic business.
Right.
Everything needs to be maintained. It's not that it's always breaking, it's that it's always being used. So you better, you've got to fix things. You're running ACs. They do the same thing. You got kitchen equipment. They do the same thing. You're constantly in the mechanic and maintenance business. And then on the other side of it, you're in the food business. You're in the bar business, but you're also, you better take care of people. So there's so many moving parts to the bowling business that, yeah, I guess it ends up being a special breed. I think that the ignorance to that and the up with my father and in particular on the front end. Thank God we were ignorant to all that at the time, because
Right.
I don't think we'd have done it.
Right.
But now it's just a way of life.
Yeah. You don't know any better.
Right.
So you grow up loving baseball. Who
Yeah.
are your favorite players? Schools? How long did you play? Tell me about your baseball life.
Oh, wow. So, it was a genetic problem. I mean, my father was a big baseball fan. My grandfather was, and way on back. So that's all that was always the focus in the family. And it was, we had a blast doing it. I had favorite players, never really, because we didn't have a team in New Orleans. I never really had a specific favorite team until Will Clark came along and, comes out of Jesuit High School in New Orleans and then ends up at Mississippi State. And I'm watching the College World Series, and Skip Bertman is just getting started at the time at LSU. And, so now all of a sudden there's this energy building in South Louisiana baseball. UNO had already made a trip to the College World Series as well. And so, Tulane was always a really good program. There was a lot going on there. So it was something that had started to really take energy in my life watching college baseball. Mm-hmm. But then Will Clark, of course, comes along. He's playing for the Giants, and I became a Giants fan and a Will Clark fan. And then, I wasn't. I guess maybe a couple of years into that, I ended up on the same team with his little brother for quite a while. And then we played against each other in high school. And then, he ended up at Mississippi State. I ended up at LSU. Probably the biggest blessing of my life. Next to my wife and my father, I think, Skip Bertman, ended up having the biggest impact on me. I went to Rummel High School and played ball there, and had a mediocre high school career. And then out of nowhere, I ended up with this a phone call saying, "Hey, a couple of things that happened in the draft and that summer, and it left the roster spot open." And I get this phone call, and how do you say no? I get a chance to go. So I went there, and I ended up having that, I guess you could call it the golden birth date, where the stars aligned and the timing aligned up, where I was a part of the 96 national championship team, and then again the 97 championship team. So met a lot of great people, played with a lot of great ball players. But I think the biggest impact was Skip. Probably one of the toughest things is you go from playing every day to being on the bench and trying to work your way into a lineup. And that, of course, taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about what hard work really was. And I ended up, I tell this story all the time, I ended up on a bucket. So I'm sitting on a bucket because, I made the mistake of making straight A's my first semester in college. So that mistake meant that, what I mean by that is that I go in for my little interview with Skip about grades, and Skip says, "Hey, on the way out, go talk to bio." Right. So Mike Bianco, who's now the Ole Miss head coach, is our assistant. And Mike was a catcher there at LSU, a really good player. His sons have gone on to be really good players. So Mike is standing outside, and he says, "Look, this is this chart. I need you to learn this chart. This is how you do this." So I'm looking at the chart, and I'm thinking, okay. And then I don't see the chart for another month and a half. And then all of a sudden we're playing, and I'm sitting on a bucket. Here's the chart again. And I realize this is the only chart we use in the game. The rest of these charts are to trade with other schools or to use later to figure out what had happened, or, you know, all kind of other reasons.
Right.
But this one's used in the game. So I'm sitting, and it turned into the best thing that could have happened. It was like getting an MBA in a dugout, listening to Skip go through the whole process of what he was thinking and all the coaches talking. And I'm sitting there, this little, you know, 18-year-old kid that's never, you know, I didn't even know what a chart was at the time.
Right.
But I learned the chart and I did the chart, but the chart was the easy part. The chart was probably, I guess it was the hard part. The easy part was listening and learning what it takes to work inside of an organization and communicate effectively from one to the other. And I can't tell you that I've mastered that, but everything I do, if I do any of it well, it's because of him.
Well, that's an MBA at the knee of the master.
Yeah,
in the dugout.
He was great, and
Right.
And the greatest leader I was ever around.
Oh, no doubt. It spoke volumes to me about his character that he showed up at Coach Robichaux's funeral.
That was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
He loved him. They loved each other. You know, as heated as all of the that rivalry is,
Right.
especially in the fan base, the fact is that most of us on the field grew up in South Louisiana,
Right.
especially in my era.
Right.
Now it's a little different,
Sure.
but in my era, we had all grown up playing with or against each other, knew each other very well. We were passionate as can be on the field, but off the field, we loved each other. So I mean, we wanted to fight.
Right.
Every time.
Right.
But I guess most of the time the fans don't see that part, that it's really because we know each other so well. and nobody wants to lose to each other. It has very little to do with LSU Tigers versus the Cajuns, you know?
Right. So 96, 97, that's not the year of the benches clearing brawl, right?
No, it happened
that was 01.
after.
Okay.
It heated up over the years, but I got to tell you, it was overblown, you know. But you know, there's just a bunch of great people on all those teams, and Coach Robicheaux is a great leader, and his boys are you know, an example of that, and all the guys that have come through that program are an example of that. They're all over this community. That's been fun to reunite with a bunch of guys here that I knew from that era, or you know, or admired from afar because of, you know, who they were. I was blessed to get the chance to actually talk to Coach Robe before he passed. He came and spoke to Katie Real Estate up on our second floor here in the ballroom for a meeting, and then that lasted about an hour, and then Coach Robe and I sat at the bar. And we didn't even take a sip of water, by the way. We sat there, and Coach Robe and I talked for 3 hours.
Oh, yes.
And it was great. I already respected and loved him, and after that, it was done. He's one of the. I could tell he's one of the greats.
Right. Yeah. No, he definitely was. What were your favorite memories from Omaha?
Oh, man. You know, obviously the win.
Okay. Other than the rings, what were your favorite memories?
You end up with the experience of that community. You know, we were still playing back then at the old Rosenblatt. And so it sat in a neighborhood and next to the zoo, in the Omaha Zoo. So that was really neat. Now it's neat because it's downtown and there's all the coolness of that too. But the old Rosenblatt, you were in a neighborhood and the community was basically putting the whole event on, and all these people from Omaha, to see how they loved South Louisiana people. Well, because, you know, we had all made so many trips up there over the years. You know, you hear about that kind of stuff, and then when you experience it, it's overwhelming. I mean, none of us in South Louisiana grow up thinking that a Midwesterner could have any hospitality whatsoever.
Right.
But they do. I think that's pretty cool. some of the moments behind the scenes, with some of the things guys said to each other in the heat of the battle to keep each other going. That you kind of remember some of that. You never forget it. I remember jumping up in the back of the dugout in '97 when we won and crushing my head on a steel I-beam, and I'm the last one to get up and get out the dugout. I almost knocked myself out.
That's so funny.
I remember stuff like that.
Right. We got to go to Pennsylvania for the Little League World Series back in 2011.
I hadn't done that yet.
Oh, it's the same kind of situation. The whole community comes together and everybody's united in this. You would think the whole town sleeps the rest of the year, that they just wake up for this one event.
Yeah.
They're all so engaged. It's amazing. It really is.
It really is. That's why we all miss sports right now.
Right.
Because there's just something special about the competition and the community that gets behind it and admires and loves the people that are playing.
Right.
It's fun.
Right. So you have a graduate this year, and so congratulations, and I'm sorry. What is your advice to this year's graduates?
Oh, wow, that's a heck of a question. Huh.
I try.
Believe, pray, pray. Don't lose sight of, I know I'm going to certainly step out here and give you some of my personal beliefs, but
that'd be good.
I've never, never shied away from it in the past. I believe that God has a purpose for everybody's life. And so don't lose sight in all the confusion and all the distractions of college life, and then much less the business world. Once you get out into the business world, that God's got a purpose for you. So pray about that. Stay faithful on it. Stay engaged with what He had. I'm not expecting Him to speak to you. Hey, this is God. That's not what I mean.
No big tablets on the mountainside.
Right.
Not that obvious.
Okay, so you'll be surprised. Right, exactly. So there's no big tablets, right? At least not in my life, not for me. But I've noticed that every time I've prayed about something, every time I've and I'm going to steal this from Skip because I think it is a prayer. Anything you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon, making the wisest decisions possible every day, must come to pass. So since I know that's true, then I know that that's a lot about commitment. And so I think the graduates this year, especially this year, have to remember that if I commit to something and I work hard enough, no matter what happens in the world, it can still happen. And all sorts of things are going to come into your path that if you've been praying on it and if you've been imagining it, these little things that God throws into your path, people, unforeseen assistance, that's part of Him helping you get to where you're supposed to be. So I think that's probably the best advice I could give. There's a great quote about, and I'm gonna butcher it, but until one commits oneself, providence moves too. And all sorts of things come into one's life of material assistance and the people in their lives, like I was saying, that when you look back, there's no way you could have ever foreseen it, and there's no way you can quantify it or say, oh, it's because I did this that this good thing happened to me. And I think out of tragedy, we often lose sight of that when it's usually the biggest opportunity coming. Right. So, I'm going to give it to you this way. Everything's flooded. We end up underwater. We do end up going back. So to think that I wasn't supposed to sit in that ChickfilA that day would, because there's a reason God sent me to that Chick-fil-A. I don't go to Chick-fil-A's otherwise.
Right.
It wasn't something I was used to doing or had ever done before. But I wind up there that day. I see that, we talked about it before. I see the mentally handicapped kid. I read Truett Cathy's statement, and all of a sudden I'm off in a different direction. I get back, we get Rock and Bowl open, and this guy I knew from years ago and I had become friends with happens to be the vice president of Entergy, and I need my power turned on, and there's no power anywhere in the area. But because of this circumstance one day that's really not a circumstance, that I knew this guy, I called him and he pulled a string, and then we had to actually go get somebody to actually go up on the pole, but he got power to that area. And then on the backbone of that infrastructure going in, the entire mid-city area ended up getting power months and months in advance of everybody else. So 4 other businesses on Carrollton end up being able to open, not because of me, because God had put a relationship in my life. Right. So a day later after opening, I'm just charged up. I go into College Inn and I start rebuilding College Inn. And when I pull up, Ronnie Taylor, my electrician, and the whole deal, he's already waiting. He says, I knew you'd be here today. I came, here's breakfast. Okay, so people like that in your life, right. Who builds those kind of, nobody, you don't manipulate your way into people like that. Then within a few hours, a guy that is still working with me today just built the Cockadoodle Convent out in a parking lot here in Lafayette, my chicken coop, right? Jason Brettel comes pulling into town from Savannah to come back to help his parents and sees me, pulls over and says, I can help you at night. He's a carpenter. I don't have any carpenters. I got a hammer and nail. I don't know what I'm doing. Right. He shows up. Before you know it, I've got a daytime crew, a nighttime crew, and then in under 90 days, I'm the first flooded restaurant open. Wow. So I did that? No. God did that. Every time I schedule one of these interviews, mostly with the girls, I'm asked, you're not going to embarrass me and you're not going to make me cry. And I always say, no, I'm not going to embarrass you. I'm not going to make you cry. I've never asked a guest to make me that same promise. So, Johnny Blancher, thank you for preaching this morning. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. And all right. I didn't know this was going this route. Well, thank goodness we're down to our final 2 chords, because I got to go get some tissue in a minute. That was beautiful. Thank you. All right. Our lightning round, my friend. Your favorite place on earth? Oh, wow. Omaha. Yeah. Movie you can't turn off? Field of Dreams. Hell yeah. TV show to binge? Oh, TV show to binge. What if Oh, I'm guilty. Oh, jeez, what's it? I gotta ask my wife for help. No, the other one. Justified. Ooh, that's a good answer. That is a good answer. Favorite book? Besides the Bible. Of course. 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Oh, that John Maxwell. Good one. I'm putting that on the list. Favorite podcast? Oh, wow. Now it's this one because I don't have one. Well, good. You can make it this one. Now this is it. I'm totally fine with that. And I'm sorry that it's by default, but I'm okay with it. I'm loving it. I'm okay with it. Favorite car? Oh, wow. Here, I'm going to show myself again. My favorite car, I used to own one. It's an F-350 diesel, 7.3, 2001 dually that I miss dearly. I can't believe I sold it. Traded in for a minivan with the kids? Something like that. Yeah, you and Michael can talk later, because he had this Dodge Ram truck that he loves so much. Right. And he's still sad and missing it. I admire sports cars. I love the whole deal, but it's not me. Sure. Favorite festival? Oh, wow. It's Jazz Fest. I'm going to show my New Orleans boy.
As it should be.
band
You
here.
grew up with it.
It's
Absolutely.
Jessica.
Okay, but now here you really have to pick amongst your kids. Favorite musician?
Oh, wow.
I know. It's a tough one.
Okay, so the nationally recognized, the big guys, Springsteen has got to be it for me.
Have you ever met him?
No, but my wife basically did. She jumped on stage with him and had one of those Courtney Cox moments.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. She got his button off his shirt, so let's put
Ooh,
it. You know,
okay, that's impressive.
yeah.
That's impressive.
She forgot the checkbook for Katrina, but she remembered to take Springsteen's button to Lafayette.
Priorities. I think she's got him in the right place, man. If you're gonna do karaoke, what song are you gonna sing?
Oh wow. What's our song? What's the Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers?
Islands in the Stream.
Islands in the Stream.
Yes.
We do it as a duet.
As you should. All right, we're totally getting together with y'all for dinner when all this is over. I can't wait.
Not that we're good at it. We're terrible.
No. That makes
But
it
if
even
I'm
better.
solo, I'll probably do Glory Days with a couple of the bands.
Nice.
Okay. And
Nice.
that happened for the first time with the Molly Ringwalds right after one of the national championship games. They called me up on the stage and said, let's sing Glory Days. I said, okay. Turns out they didn't know the song. Okay, so I said, guys, you asked me to come up here. Not only, I'm bad enough.
Oh, that is awesome.
No,
That
it
is
turned
awesome.
into a thing. I don't ever sing it again with the Molly Ringwalds. That'll
Sure.
never happen again.
Sure.
But, Mixed Nuts, there's a few others I've
Right. I saw Springsteen in '84 with the Born in the USA tour. I was a freshman in high school. Iconic.
Yes.
Iconic. Yeah.
It's if you're not a Springsteen fan, you just got to go see him live, and then it changes everything.
Everything. That was awesome. That is awesome. I'm going to assume favorite sport is baseball, unless you want to prove me wrong.
Baseball.
Okay, yeah. Favorite meal? Favorite food? Favorite thing you're going to have to eat?
Yeah. I have a standard favorite, and it's coursed out. It's a blue cheese wedge. So an iceberg or butter lettuce, either one. Iceberg wedge, blue cheese dressing, blue cheese crumbles, and little cherry tomatoes that we grow on the farm at College Inn. And then the second course is what we call the Cartwright's filet. So it's a tenderloin with sauteed spinach and garlic. Very simple pleasure. No sauce, no nothing, just the salt and pepper, simple stuff. And then the third course is a big glass of port.
Ooh. Yeah, we're definitely getting together for dinner after this. Favorite way that you treat yourself?
Oh wow, man, it's probably the chair massage at a Whole Foods that has one, where it's 10 minutes for $20 while everybody else goes in grocery shopping. Whole Foods here in Lafayette doesn't do it, but I've popped in a few across the country here and there, a few in New Orleans that do it. And when I see that chair massage, that's all I need is 10, 15 minutes.
That's awesome. And your favorite concert that you've ever attended live in person?
Well, it is Springsteen in
I
the
figured.
arena in New Orleans, but
Which tour?
That was the E Street Band reunion tour.
Okay.
However, I will say that I have a favorite, rock and roll, and unfortunately he's deceased now. But once a month we had Snooks Eaglin, and he's a blind black guitarist from St. Rose, Louisiana, and Snooks. And look, there's a lot of great ones in this whole area, but everybody knows who this guy is that is from in the music in South Louisiana. And Snooks was great every single month for the 15 years that we had him in.
Right.
Unbelievable.
That is awesome. Johnny, I'm shocked to say it's been an hour.
Oh, wow.
This has been the greatest way to spend a Wednesday.
Thank you.
Cannot thank you enough for taking us all to church.
I can't thank you enough, Jackie. I'm blessed to be here in Lafayette and have people like you in this community doing these kind of things for people is special, and it's why we're here and living here and going to stay.
Well, man, we're glad to have you as a part of this town and have your family as our neighbors.
Thank you.
This is awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And to all of you watching, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something great about Johnny Blancher, his faith, his values, his business, and why you need to support Rock and Bowl and Ye Old Cottage Inn and Mid-City Lanes and any other way you can support that family every time. Thank y'all for being with us, for your questions and comments on the Facebook stream. And feel free to come back on Friday. We're going to be talking to Ashley Mudd and her role with Leadership Institute of Acadiana and Leadership Lafayette program, and talk about what they did when they had to go virtual. So thank y'all very much, and we'll see you next time. What am I to do? When the day is